you live in England, it's not as typically English as people might think. Some people might say, well, that you're well directed.
I love you, Max Perkins!
Say, I only have 1 minute, I was just leaving.
Go home and get some sleep.
I need you...
Let me read it.
I'd been nominated the year before and I knew I wouldn't win. We're getting towards a time when there are more writers than readers now.
I want to see you again. Yours always, Tom.
Which actually, you live in England, it's not as typically English as people might think. You know, if you walk around the streets of London, they're not all wearing suits and bowler hats and being gentlemen. It's wildly diverse, and I don't want to sound inconsistent or hypocritical about it, because I think I conform in a lot of the roles I play. I do conform to the stereotype of the Englishman, but I don't think it's particularly representative. I've never quite understood why Sid Vicious isn't a typical Englishman, or John Lennon, or Damien Hirst, or, yeah.
Gentlemen's names would appear in the newspaper only 3 times. True nobility is being superior to your former self. An Oxford is any formal shoe with open lacing.
I didn't know Thomas Wolfe. I think a lot of modern readers don't know Thomas Wolfe. But I did have a huge interest in the likes of Fitzgerald and Hemingway. And then reading the book on which this is based, the biography of Max Perkins, I fell in love with him. It became a real passion, and I wanted to know more and more about him, partly because he's a mystery. He didn't want to be in the limelight. He absolutely committed to being in the shadows, and was the facilitator of all these extraordinary talents. And what's particularly notable about it is that he wasn't just a discoverer and facilitator of talent. The people he's best known for working with were the most flamboyant and the most troubled. And he seems to be the exact opposite of those personalities. It's not just Thomas Wolfe, and, you know, as you see in the film, he's driven by instinct and has no filter and no ability to edit or censor or even control himself minimally.
Some books are supposed to be long, you know. Think Tolstoy never met you. We'd have that great novel, War and Nothing.
And yet Perkins is the ultimately controlled man. And Fitzgerald, in a very different way, was equally troubled and had an inability to act in his own interests.
You don't know what they're like, the state asylums. I should have died when I was 24, right after this side of paradise.
You know, and Hemingway too. All of them drinkers, all of them self-harming in one sort of way or other, and all of them geniuses. And all set against this man who was like a kind of father figure.
I'm telling you, Spain is where the action's gonna be. It's war that's coming.
And you need to be there.
Well, I need to be somewhere. I need to feel the old lucha por la vida, you know? The struggle for life. What else is there?
Ultimate modesty and generosity and intelligence and independence as well. He wasn't just a safe, conservative man. He worked for a very conservative publishing house, but there's nothing conservative about Fitzgerald or Wolfe or any of them. And he had to fight for them. So I didn't know anything about Fitzgerald's dependency on Perkins. I didn't know that Perkins was like a father to him. I didn't know that he helped him financially, pastorally, was an emotional support for him. I didn't know, and that's a very important thing to know, that he had a figure like that.
Little velvet to see you through.
I'll write you a great book.
I know.
His struggles to sell his books. I mean, Gatsby got terrible, terrible reviews when it came out, largely, and sold terribly and went out of print during his lifetime. And he had to make money churning out short stories and working for Hollywood.
You know how much I made in royalties on Gatsby last year? $2.13.
But crucially, I mean, it was Maxwell Perkins who suggested the title The Great Gatsby. It was Maxwell Perkins who thought up the structure of the plot of the book. And it's one of the most famous novels ever written. And there's a letter from Fitzgerald to Perkins testifying to that. It was, you know, I think I've done a great book, but it was you who gave me the story structure. I think that many people in the creative process are enlivened and find that something unlocked in their process by a figure like that. I know that good teachers can do it. You know, that you could think you're stupid until you meet that good teacher.
In a book crowded with great rolling mountains of prose, how is this moment profoundly different?
Because it's simple.
Unadorned.
Like lightning. Standing out in the black sky by its starkness.
Exactly.
I love you, Max Perkins!
You know, Woolf, I don't think, went on to write better work without Perkins after he left him. Hemingway did. I think that it was Perkins who produced the best of Hemingway largely in the early part of his life. That's just my opinion.